Still, it looked hopeless, so Philadelphia decided to rest a few vets.
We had played a lot of games in a row, so I said, hey, this is a good chance to rest some of my starters. You know, I take Tommy Herr out of the lineup.
Steve Jeltz out at second base, replacing Tommy Herr.
Tom Herr came out after his first at-bat, and I went to second base. My first at-bat, I walked. Von Hayes hit his second home run. My second at-bat, I came up with a man on against Bob Watt. Threw me an 0-2 curveball, left it over the plate, down and in, kind of.
Jeltz with a drive to right center. Ball is gone. Jeltz with a two-run homer. The Pirate lead is now 10-6. Steve Jeltz gets only his third career home run.
I could have told you then that there was a good chance we were going to lose that game.
But the Pirates added still another run before the Phillies' impromptu slugger once again came to the plate.
And they will bring up
Babe Ruth.
Yes.
Third time I came up, I had two men on against Bob Kipper. Threw me a 2-0 fastball up and in.
A drive to left field. Bonds is back to the warning track, to the wall. It's gone. I don't believe it. It's now 11-9.
And these fans who came into the ballpark tonight were stunned by a pin-run first inning by the Pirates, now on their feet, cheering their Phillies, who have made a tremendous comeback to make it an 11-9 ball game, and they want a curtain call for Steve Jeltz.
And when Jeltz dings you twice, it's just a matter of time.
Hey everyone, this is Tony from TJ is Online YouTube channel. It's been a while since I made a video on my own channel. So I felt, hey, today's December 20th, why not make one? I have been making videos on another channel as a kind of a guest host, talking about star basketball cards, which I've been into a little bit. But let's get back to some baseball. So you're probably wondering, what are we looking at and what is this video about? Well, with all the recent top 25, 10, 50, 100 lists broken down into one video that's about 2 hours long, or some that are shortened to 10 minutes, 20 minutes, decided to make my own version of that type of theme. So going into 2025, which should be another interesting year in the hobby, I thought, well, why not make my own top 25 list of 2024? So what's on today's agenda? We're going to talk about Steve Jeltz, a childhood baseball player, Philadelphia Phillies shortstop, sometimes second baseman, who I grew up watching from 1984, as long as I can remember. He got a little bit of playing time before that, but I really started following the Phillies in late 84, 1985. All the way up to today. Steve Jeltz played for the Phillies from 1983 to 1989, when he had the power surge of his career. And then he ended his career in 1990 with the Kansas City Royals, which was near his hometown and where he went to school. So why Steve Jeltz? Well, growing up in Philadelphia, especially during that time, we had a lot of losing teams. We had 1980, which I was too young for. I was 4 years old. We won the World Series. 1981, which, you know, because of the odd playoff bracket due to the strike that season when Fernando Mania wasn't taking over, we had the two teams with the best record from the first half, two teams with the best record from the second half in each league basically play in the playoffs. And unfortunately, my Phillies, which I was 5 years old at the time, lost in the NLDS. Then 1982, we had 89 wins, 3 games out of first place. 1983, we made it back to the World Series with I want to say a veteran team, but to be fairly honest, it was an old team. A lot of aging stars came on, Tony Perez, Joe Morgan. We had Pete Rose still from the 79 season. But we made the World Series, lost in 5 games to the Baltimore Orioles. Then things started to shift in 1984. Went to 81 and 81, 15 and a half games out of first place. Started watching baseball then. Big Steve Carlton, Mike Schmidt fan. 1985, I pretty much watched every single home game as a 9-year-old. Definitely was in the hobby then, buying tons of 85 tops. Couldn't find, oh, and also 85 Flair. Was able to find 85 Flair. Couldn't find 85 Don Russ in that year. But 75 wins in 1985. 26 games out of first place. Another miserable year. 1986. Another year, watched every game. We actually improved by 11 games when we won 86 games against 75 losses, but finished 21 and a half games out of first place because of the New York Mets. And everyone remembers that Mets team. I thought that was the beginning of the dynasty with their pitching staff. But no, that wasn't meant to be. But they had a couple good years. But this isn't a video about the Mets, so won't talk too much about that. Then 1987, 11-year-old, I'm full-blown into the hobby. I even bought my first vintage card that year. 1967 Mickey Mantle that my grandparents scourged the money to help me pay for, and my dad chipped in. Got at the Berlin Flea Market, also known as the Berlin Farmers Market. The card store is still there, but the gentleman who owns it never opens it up, basically uses it as his own storage unit. I do remember that 1967 Mickey Mantle card. Uncle Mick, as John Keating calls it. 1988, another horrible year. We actually lost 25 more games, finished 35 and a half games out of first place in 1988. 1989, we started to play more younger players, and we actually won 2 extra games to finish 67 wins against 95 losses. 26 games out of first place. So, why Steve Jeltz, and why did I go through all those records? It's because that's the baseball I grew up with. That, from the time I was 9 years old to the time finishing grade school, entering in high school, that's the Phillies team. And we had a few lean years till we got to 1992, the second half. Team started playing better. Got Lee Thomas as our GM in 1989. Started to undo the mess that Paul Owens did. Finally got a manager who knew a little bit about baseball. Jim Fregosi, not as bad as the other managers, John Felsky and company, just horrible. Nick Leva, and I won't even talk about Lee Elia because he's a Chicago guy too. Also, in addition to those horrible players I grew up with, Luis Aguayo, Randy Reddy, Don Carmen, Bruce Ruffin, Pat Combs, even veterans like Lance Parrish came over, horrible. Mike Easler, I think he played spring training for us maybe, or he nixed the trade after it was done. I forget exactly, but he didn't stay too long after, or I think he went to the Yankees after that, or before the Yankees. But I remember that was a big signing. And our fabulous GMs also, well, let me show a card. Sorry, forgot to show a card before we get into that top 25 list. But also let go of players. Either let them go in drafts like George Bell to the Blue Jays, traded Julio Franco, Ryan Sandberg, Dave Stewart away, or let them walk. Got Von Hayes for them. Great. Didn't really work out too well. But why Steve Jeltz again? He was our starting shortstop for a lot of those years. And I have a little personal connection to Steve Jeltz. This is his TCMA 1983 card. Minor league card, Portland Beavers. Nice card for that time. This is card number 1. I'll start with the early cards, I thought. And Steve Jeltz had a little bit of playing time for us. 1983. Didn't do so well. Sent him back to the minors. Second card we have the Portland Beavers Pacific Coast League Baseball, 1984. The Pacific Coast League. We know that. This card was sponsored by Coca-Cola. Portland Beavers was, for a time, the AAA affiliate for the Philadelphia Phillies. This card was printed by Kramer Sports. We know Kramer. He's still involved in the hobby today. This was out of Washington. Card number 3, one of my favorites. This is the 1985 rated rookie, Steve Jeltz. Now, being a baseball card fan in 1985, I thought this guy was going to be the second coming. He's on a rated rookie. It's got to be good if he's on the Don Russ rated rookie set. Heck, this one's even autographed. Is it a real auto? I think so. Looks like Steve Jeltz's autograph. He still comes to Citizens Bank Park for Phillies alumni events, and he does a lot of charity work with kids. He's actually a pretty good guy. A couple tough things happened to him. But Steve Jeltz, let's go into some of the details about him. Steve was born May 28th, 1959 in Paris, France. Yes, he's one of the 7th players ever to make the major leagues from France. And he actually owns the vast majority of records by a Parisian player. And I'll get into those a little bit later. This also talks a little bit more about how he was acquired. He was a 9th round pick in the June 1980 MLB draft. That was actually a pretty good draft. No Hall of Famers as of now, but I think we're going to have our first. Darryl Strawberry was the first pick. Cecil Espy, 8th pick. Kelly Gruber, 10th pick. Some of the other winners in that draft: Glenn Wilson, 18th. Ron Robinson, who gave up Mike Schmidt's 500th home run when he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And those who remember Steve Jeltz playing shortstop, played awfully close to baseball's greatest third baseman of all time, Mike Schmidt, for many games. 520 games, I think, when I did the last count. Other players in that 1980 draft, Terry Francona is probably going to be the first Hall of Famer due to how he started to excel as a manager after fumbling with the Phillies and in the late 1990s, winning World Series with the Red Sox, doing well with the Cleveland Indians in the 2010s. Billy Beane, Moneyball, was also part of that draft, taking number 23 right after Terry Francona with the Mets. And 2 other notable names in that draft. I'm feeling good. It's Friday. I'll give you 5. Doug Drabeck, Eric Davis, Terry Steinbach, Oil Can Boyd, Danny Jackson, Darryl Dalton, another Philly, Chris Sabo, Rick Aguilera. So those are some of the players. With being one of the few Parisian players, only 7. Another card. Let's move to the 1985 Flair. Steve Jeltz. This is the rookie he shared with John Russell. 1985 Flair. Mr. Jeltz actually holds Major League Baseball records for games played, at-bats, runs, hits, doubles, triples, runs batted in, walks, and strikeouts among all the players born in France. He's a Major League record holder in all those categories. Unfortunately, he's second in home runs behind Bruce Bochy, future Hall of Fame manager, in my opinion. Bruce was also born in France. 1985 Flair. Couldn't tell you the pop on any of these, but it was a pretty hard card for me to get to. Now we're going to get to some tops. 1980. Oh, you're probably wondering why I'm wearing gloves, because I'm handling greatness. Jersey, game used jersey, and Steve Jeltz cards. And this is my top 25 video, so I'll wear whatever I want. 1985 Topps traded Steve Jeltz. Nice card. Also have the 1985 Topps Tiffany, Steve Jeltz. If you compare these two cards, and I know it's hard in this MagSafe case, but hey, greatness deserves their own MagSafe case. By the way, thanks to Matt who got this for me, not Fast One. Between Topps and the Tiffany. This is Tiffany, this is Topps. You can tell the difference because there are no asterisks underneath the word his. So this is the regular Topps, and this is the Tiffany card. Sorry, this is the regular Topps. This is the Tiffany. I confused myself, sorry. I'm nervous making my top 25 video because it's such a momentous player that I gotta pay tribute to in my top 25 list. Oh, by the way, we just got done. This is my 5th to 6 cards. Topps, regular Topps, Tiffany. Tiffany doesn't have the asterisks underneath the word his on the back. 7th card, 1985 Tasty Cake. And this Tasty Cake card is was pretty popular among fans attending the stadium. And this was thought to be the infield of the future. In 1985, actually, the Phillies had some high hopes, to quote Harry Callis, about their future infield. Mike Schmidt, Steve Jeltz, Ivan DeJesus, who eventually the Phillies thought Steve Jeltz was going to be better than, so they let him go. Juan Samuel, second base. Luis Aguayo also played some second base. John Russell here. Notice that first base doesn't have anyone here because we didn't know who the first baseman was going to be in 1985, if you could believe it. Paul Owens ran a tight ship. Let me tell you, that's pure sarcasm too. He's the one who let Ryan Sandberg go and Julio Franco and Dallas Green robbed us on that. Here's the back of the 85 Tasty Cake card. This came in a pack. Steve Jeltz has his own card. I don't currently own it. I don't own the Mike Schmidt card, which is kind of unusual for me, but I have the Steve Jeltz and Mike Schmidt on one card. Card number 8. This is the 1986 Tiffany Steve Jeltz. Much like the 85 traded, only 5,000 of these sets were made. This card, like the 85 and all other Tiffany's, were available in set only. And you can tell these cards from non-Tiffany regular base cards is because Tiffany cards for non-traded set had a very different card stock. All Tiffany cards were printed in Ireland, whereas Topps cards were printed either in PA or New York, and they basically use whatever cardboard they can find, dyed them, and they're very cheap looking compared to even Flair and Don Russ of the time. Nice card stock, glossy front, cheap card stock. But Topps did have some pretty good photography in 1986. Unfortunately, Mr. Jeltz wasn't one of the players who got the nice photographs. Last card, number 10 for this slot. This is the Steve Jeltz opening day 1987 Don Russ card. Like this card a lot. And Don Russ wasn't too kind to Steve Jeltz on the back of it. Earned the Phillies shortstop job on his defensive prowess. He's actually a pretty good fielder if you look him up on baseballreference.com. However, when the team began to slump early in 87, he was replaced by Luis Aguayo, another one of our fantastic players. Went 0 for 2 on opening day as the Phillies were shut out by Rick Junk Mailer, 6-0. Here's the regular 87 Don Russ. This is card number 11. And you can compare Topps. Sorry, Don Russ used a maroon border, whereas for opening day and regular, and this came in set format only, whereas regular Don Russ had a black border. But they shared the same design, and the card back, colors, stock, everything's the same. Card number 12. This is the 1987 Topps Tiffany Steve Jeltz. Reportedly, there were 30,000 sets made of these. Again, we have the nice, clean, bright cardstock, white, printed in Ireland also, even though it doesn't say it on the card. I didn't choose the regular Topps card for this because you don't need to see that. But Mr. Jeltz, if you look at the statistics, which we haven't touched upon yet, hit 219 in 86, hit 189 in 85, hit 206 in 84, hit 125 in 1983 in his 8 at-bats in 13 games. Forgot to mention how in between the 86 and 87 season, Jeltz actually taught himself how to switch hit, and he thought it would help his career, prolong his career in the major leagues, and to some extent, I guess it helped because the Phillies didn't want to pay anyone else to play shortstop at this time, so he continued as our starting shortstop. Thanks, Paul Owens. This is the 1988 score, Steve Jeltz. Love this card. Nice green card. Score really hit it out of the park with the photography used compared to sets of that era and even other 88 sets. You can see the back of the card. Steve did play a little bit in the minors in 1987. Hit 333 in the minors. That was actually right before the season started, but they counted it as minor leagues. So hit pretty well. Didn't hit any home runs. Didn't steal any bases, which he was actually known for when he went to University of Kentucky, University of Kansas. As a Jayhawk, Steve Jeltz played 1978, 79, and 80. Then he went into the draft, but he actually set the record for most stolen bases at Kansas City with 65. I believe that was in 1979 or 78 he did that. I know it wasn't 80. Here we have the 1988 Topps set. This is the Tiffany also. You could tell by the bright cardstock on the back. Topps actually used this nice cardstock on their regular base traded sets, but not regular sets. In 1988, we had 25,000 of these sets compared to a reported 30,000 in 1987. Do like the 87 card better than the 88 set card. This is number 14. Number 15 on the Steve Jeltz countdown. This is the 1988 Don Russ card. What's special about this card, other than its hideous design, is this is not Steve Jeltz on the front. This is Juan Samuel. Mr. Jeltz hit 232 in 1987, so maybe some of that minor league and switch hitting did help. Didn't have a home run in 293 at-bats, but did hit a respectable 233 like we said. Walked 39 times, 54 strikeouts, 12 RBIs. And we actually have a career highlight here. Regained his starting shortstop job with the Phillies last year after spending part of the season in Maine, which we talked about. Had errorless streak of 46 games in 1986 from May 1st to July 11th and was optioned back to Portland in August. Led Carolina League in doubles. Led the Carolina League in double plays by second baseman with 84, with Pensacola in 81. So they're combining different highlights because he didn't have enough highlights to have one card. Here's the 1989 Topps Tiffany. About 25,000 of these made. Lost count. What's this? 18? Yeah, this is number 18 on my list. So this is the 1989 Topps Tiffany. Same card back design. Mr. Jeltz unfortunately went back to hitting 187 in 1988. He was trying his best to be like Mendoza, but he fell below the Mendoza line. Career batting average fell to 208 from 219. Still a pretty good fielder. And this card even has his hit breakdown in RBI. Only played in the majors from April, May, June, July, August, and September, but not many at-bats or hits. So he played the whole year. Jeltz played 9 years in the major leagues, if I'm correct. We're going to combine cards number 18 and 19. One of these are special. One of these aren't. Can you tell by looking at it? Give you a hint. Other than being upper deck, let's look at the back. So this is actually a 1988 Don Russ promo card. They were given out at the 1988 National a little bit, but those were mainly Wally Joyner and Bruce DeWitt, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. So this, I don't remember seeing it at the 88 National, but it was at the January 1989 500 home run card show in Atlantic City. I believe that was Trop World. And it's stamped on the back, sample, not for resale. And it's also missing Mr. Jeltz's position. Look at that. Compare this to this regular 1989 upper deck. We see the position here. And we have a nice action photo in the back of Jeltz assumingly making a double play. Don't know who's in the background. But yeah, Steve hit 187 in 1988, so we already talked about yeah, I don't want to talk about that. He's a really nice guy though. Here is Jeltz's scorecard from the 1989. I don't have one of these holders for it because these are actually cost more than how much most of his cards are worth. Score hit another home run with the design. I remember when these came out, I bought the packs like hotcake. I still prefer the 88 ones, but these were pretty cool. Nice profile of Jeltz on the back with his trademark mustache and nice hairdo. Had a Jerry curl or curly hair. Would also say on the back, and I haven't touched upon this right now, much like all the other cards, Steve was 5'10", 5'11". They put him 5'11", but when I saw him at Citizens Bank Park, I thought it was closer to 5'10", 5'9", actually. 170 pounds. And make note of this weight. This weight is very important because we're going to start to talk about this weight going up because I think there might be an allegation. So I didn't talk about it here, but if you look at the weight, 180, 170, put on 10 pounds. Now, I don't know if any of this is true with card number 20 here, but what were players doing in the late 1980s starting to do? And why is this important? Because in 1989, which we're going to talk about in the 1990 Topps Tiffany card, only about 15,000 of these made, Steve had his best career year. So I prefer this card to show his stats. So he hit 243, hit 4 of his career 500 home runs up to this point. 25 of his 125 RBIs came in this. And he hit 4 home runs in only 116 games, but more importantly, it was only 263 at-bats. And it even makes a little note how he taught himself to switch hit after the 85 season. So, what happened? Well, Steve is part of 2 highlights that you can find on YouTube, and I'll attach it. I'll include it in this video. One being the hidden ball trick against the Mets. He caught Gary Carter to end the game. And Gary Carter's on second, steps off second. Didn't realize Steve Jeltz never took the relay and threw it back to the pitcher. So that's how that game ended. Also, in June 8th, 1989, Steve Jeltz hit 2 of his 5 career home runs in the same game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Why is this game important? And I have to show card number 19 for this. Because Jeltz didn't even start the game, number 1. The Pirates got off to a 10-0 lead after the first or second inning. Manager Nick Layla took him out, took out Tommy Herr, who was now the shortstop, or the second baseman for the Phillies at that time, because Jeltz was rotating back because he couldn't hold on to his starting job. And Jeltz came in and from the left side of the plate, hit a home run. Came up again later on in the game, hit a home run from the right side of the plate. Hit 5 RBIs in that game, the most RBIs he ever had in one game. And the game is also historic because at that time, the Pirates broadcaster Jim Roker said on the air, after it was a 10-0 game, that if we, the Pirates, lose the game, I'll walk back to Pittsburgh from Philadelphia. Well, the Phillies ended up winning the game 15-11. And a man of his word, Jim Rooker, made the 300-mile charity walk from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh after the season ended in October. That was a pretty good team. Pirates team, actually, managed by Jim Leyland, Hall of Famer, and Bonds, Bonilla, Mr. Met, with that lovely contract, deferred. Nice job. Jose Lean played second base. Andy Van Slyke was on the team by then, if I'm correct. And John Smiley, who my dad really thought was going to be a pretty good pitcher with his mechanics and everything. They had a pretty good team. And we know the Pirates had a pretty good team because they started making the postseason. They just couldn't get past the Braves. And they probably wonder why they let the first baseman with the mustache go. He scored the game-winning run in that one game, and his name is escaping me right now. But he was slow first baseman. I'll think about it maybe before this. Oh, this video is already 31 minutes long. Who would have thought a video about Steve Jeltz, my top 25 list, could be over 31 minutes as of right now? I may have to do some editing. And this is even before the video highlights. I better kick it up a notch. So 90 tops, Tiffany, Steve Jeltz. Card number 20, we talked about. Card number 21. Here's a 1990 Flair Steve Jeltz. Really like this card. Jeltz ended up, we know he hit 243 then. Really got to keep some of these cards onto the side. Okay, here we have the Upper Deck card. What's this? Card number 22. 91 Upper Deck. 90 Upper Deck, excuse me. Jeltz is still with the Phillies, even though he didn't play for the Phillies in 1990. Nice front picture. Guy was always smiling. Nice little action photo. Can't go wrong with an Upper Deck. Here's where I start getting a little upset about Jeltz. Jeltz is no longer on the Phillies. He's with Kansas City. Had a cup of coffee with Kansas City in 1990. 74 games. 3 at-bats. Need my reading glasses. And he hit 155. His career average is now down to 210. Didn't do much with the Royals. But he played just long enough to have a 1991 Desert Shield card. Reportedly 7,000 of these made. The back is identical to regular base tops. Did not have a 91 tops Tiffany. Love this card. And the last card Number 25 of my historic Steve Jeltz run. This is a International League card by Impel. For those who don't know Impel, they put out the Marvel cards before Flair bought them. Popular cards in the early 1990s, especially those Marvel masterpieces. Those Marvel cards are fabulous. Jeltz tried to play a couple more times, wasn't able to. That's my 25 card Steve Jeltz countdown. So what is on my desk right now? This is a, I'm going to put more lights on. This is a 1989 game-worn Steve Jeltz jersey. Won this in an auction. Here's the letter that accompanied with it. So in July 30th, 1990, this letter was sent. This letter was typed up. Steve Jeltz signed it. And it said, "Dear collector, thank you for bidding on my uniform and for helping the Phillies' wives in their efforts to combat ALS, which is more commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. With this letter, I hereby certify that the uniform, this, you receive is the road uniform worn by me during the 1989 season. Thank you. Signed, Steve Jeltz." See the bottom paper? And I remember getting letters, or my dad got letters on this letterhead because we were season ticket holders. He started being a season ticket holder with the Phillies in 1979. And on the back, I put this little tag that came with it. Veteran Stadium. This was lot number 77 in the auction. I wonder if there was a home uniform made, because really love to win that. So this is Steve Jeltz's uniform. It has the famous Phillies emblem for the city. This is City Hall. For many, many years, this was the Phillies logo. This was also the first year the Phillies road uniform was changed from the powder blue, which was introduced in 1972 for road games, to this gray, which is commonly used today. Rawlings was the manufacturer of this jersey. Jeltz's name is sewn in. A lot of use, believe it or not, with this jersey. And if you turn it around, let me take this off. We have some tobacco juice residue. Steve Jeltz did chew tobacco. I don't see too many dirt stains, so I don't think. I mean, I know they played on mainly AstroTurf during this year, but at least I have the tobacco stains. There are some faint, like I would say, Dynatex, which was the type of dirt used on fields back then. Little stain under the underarm pit, definitely game worn. You can see how the stitching's getting a little bit undone. Jeltz was a size 44, a little bit bigger than what I thought he was. This is why I think maybe he tried something, but no proof, just allegedly. Doesn't diminish anything. This was set 1 in 1989. Unlike some jerseys of players from that era, game used, this has no inner tag with his name, unlike the pants. Jeltz was a 33-34 waist, 27 inseam, because players wore stirrups then, unlike today. So these pants would actually fit me, and they would probably look like floods on me, even though I'm 5'5". So it has his name. The set 1 matches this. I don't believe he had a second set in 1989. I believe he had one uniform, and if they needed a second uniform, if this got damaged, they would have gotten a spare, tailored it, and sewn his name on it. A little bit of staining on the pants. You can see how the belt loops were in the 1980s. This is all polyester, and this is heavy. I have Mitchell & Ness flannel jerseys, and they say these were lighter, they more breathable, but I don't think this is too much lighter, if at all, than the flannel jerseys. But I guess if you're sweating on a hot summer day, maybe these wicks the, wet the sweat a little bit better. Not sure. Here's the old logo. Sewn on nicely. So with that, we're at the 39-minute mark, and some of my hobby friends are going to kill me for this video being so long, but I think it's important that collecting in the hobby is not just about money. I think the money aspect might be 90% of it, but there are some things we buy, such as this, but that's here or there. Also, some of my cards in 1990 have Jeltz wearing this uniform. The documentation said he has one road uniform, and this is set 1. I have never seen a set 2 for sale anywhere, even in hunt auctions that had a lot of jerseys go through it in the 1990s and 2000s. But I haven't done any type of jersey matching with the jobs some of the companies have done. I think I could probably do just as well using Getty images and buying some high-res photos for sale on the internet, just for my personal perspective. But thank you for taking this journey with me. Thank you for staying with me for nearly 40 minutes. Now I'll have some highlights that you can watch. Mr. Jeltz, the greatest Parisian shortstop of all time within the MLB. You can see what this guy was about. And if you get a chance, search his name on YouTube, because he's still involved with players, kids, youth baseball. And he has a lot of good things to say about how we could help our youth, our younger guys, younger girls, in being better and smarter athletes and not spoiling them on the field. Thank you.
A fly ball into right center field. James had him played that way, and Carter unable to tag in advance. And Wisely remaining at second, with the Mets down by 4, and there are 2 out here in the 9th inning. Now Carter's called out, and the ball game is over. Steve Jeltz holding the ball. Doug Harvey right there making the call as Carter is tagged out.
Doug Harvey on top of the play. Carter not knowing that Jeltz had the ball, and that's the ball game.
An ignominious end to what had been a great evening for Gary Carter, as he was 3 for 3 with a home run plus a walk. But Gary caught looking, and the ball game ended on a most unusual play.
On the night. Base hit right field, but they're going to have to hold Jeltz at third. Oh, and now the ball gets away from O'Neill. He kicks it to Benzinger.
No, I do not believe this. This is the all-timer, Tommy. The absolute all-timer.
He kicked the ball to Todd Benzinger.
The absolute all-time play I may have ever seen. Paul O'Neill gave up on the ball game. He assumed with a base hit and unable to get the handle that Steve Jeltz was going to score. Steve Jeltz had to hold up because of the line drive past Benzinger.